Cool. So yeah, I'm Stephen Walbroehl from Halborn. We do advanced cybersecurity for most of the NFT projects that you may have traded or invested in or holding. So everything that you guys have, if you're a developer or if you're just an investor, you're holding or a speculator, we make sure that they stay secure. So NFTs, they all come in different sizes, different forms. Sometimes they're on Solana or Ethereum, different platforms. We do all of that, and the functionality behind the NFTs and the way they work is extremely important to make sure that they're done the correct way. So we're the auditors behind the scenes to make sure that everything, when you're minting it, if you're deploying it, if you're using IPFS, or if you're doing it to that, it does not get hacked and it doesn't add any extra devaluation to when you're putting in there. And the thing is with this NFT is very, like, the technology is brand new. We're discovering like different 0 days all the time that you'll have never seen before. We do a lot of the research behind the way the NFTs are made to find the latest exploits that can either steal them from bundles or from singles. Ones that are off-chain, I say, like Web 2 type of hacks. So private keys getting stolen, the OpenSea issue that everybody knew about just a couple months ago. So what I put together is some of the advanced details around the latest cybersecurity hacks on NFTs. So these are ones that are issues that kind of don't show up too much on like a CoinDesk or some of these like marketplaces, because we find them before they get launched on like big platforms. So Halborn, we've done the Bored Ape Yacht Club and the Mutant Ape Yacht Clubs. We've the upper echelon of some of these NFT platforms that are like leading the charge, and we have to be very, very strict with our security to make sure that it's absolutely secure and buttoned up, and the developers do a great job putting that together. There's millions of dollars at stake on this, and if there's issues in the code, people can lose money, and it's really not fun for everybody, and the reputation of the developers is going to be impacted. So what I have here, there's 6 vulnerabilities that they can be considered NFT hacks, and I'll give examples of where you may have seen them before. So we'll step through them each one by one, and I'll talk a little bit at the code level of what's going on. So the first one is easily bypass mint requirement conditions. So let's go to the next slide, and we'll see what that looks like and how that's happened before. So you may have seen the Adidas NFTs. The Adidas NFT was really, really popular. It came out, and it's, one of the ones, the Adidas originals came, it sold out almost immediately, but the demand for it was high. However, there was actually some malicious minting that was going on that just caused it to sell out so quickly. And people were wondering, like, how the heck did this guy, generate 167 calls to mint and buy all of these NFTs so quickly? Was it like a bot, or was it a script? So this was actually really advanced. He or she actually had a smart contract that was created before the mint occurred that would generate these subcontracts with different unique addresses pretending to be many people. So as you know, when you generate a private key like in MetaMask or something, you use the mnemonic key, you have your wallet, and you submit transactions. So this was a smart contract that would each individually mint 2 more NFTs from a subcontract. It was all programmed much like an algorithm or a bot, and each subcontract was able to have its own creator mint the Adidas NFT to buy. So of course you may be thinking, well, this is like really expensive. The gas fees must be like really, really, really expensive to be able to perform an attack like this. So it's really only profitable if what you're buying can be sold back to the marketplace and make a profit from it. And they actually did make quite a profit from it. They paid $252,000 for just gas fees, but the value of the Adidas NFT actually went up to over $600,000 in profit for them when they're selling it back on there. So that's pretty crazy. I would say it was worth it for it. But there are some remediations to prevent this if you're a developer. So let's go to the next slide. We'll see some of the remediations for it. So this can be considered easily bypassable mint condition. And it is an expensive option, but there's ways to be able to do it. You can first, check if the caller address, the person saying, hey, I want to mint this NFT, are they a smart contract or are they a human? So you can check if the caller address belongs to a smart contract or a human. That's the way that Ethereum works. At least you can look at the transaction origin for this too, and you can also have a way to interact with the NFT directly through more of a centralized manner. It's not holding an NFT. It's not like holding any type of custody of what you're making. It's simply just a backend that will generate a unique signature. And the signature will go ahead and say, hey, can you please go ahead and create this NFT on my behalf? Because I want to make sure that nobody's front running me and nobody's going to be able to mint 165 of them. So you can use a centralized system just for the minting process, and that'll help out. Just make sure that you protect the backend private key for all of that. Okay. All right, let's go to the next one. So the next one we have here is a replay attack. And replay attacks can happen if you're doing a giveaway or you're doing a bundle attack. So these bundles, when you get an NFT, sometimes you say, I don't want to buy one of them. I want to buy like 10 of them at once. I want to have all of them. Can you just please I want to get it as fast as possible, like break down the door and achieve it. And if you're familiar with Ethereum development, you know that they have what's called a nonce. So the nonces usually start at 0 and they iterate 1, 2, 3 of higher, and you can't do anything, with a nonce that's higher than the previous value for it. This is where you can actually do a replay attack and mint, bundles before you're supposed to by submitting a single transaction with that signature. And you do this by creating the nonce and using it there. So if you go to the next slide, how do you prevent something like this on the code example I have? You can see you can fix that vulnerability by just modifying a single line of code called verify signature. When you add that parameter with that signature, just say this is a bundle. It's that easy. Just one extra parameter, just saying that this is a single and this is a bundle. Where we've seen this attack happen before is they don't specify whether you're buying a single or a bundle. So you can trick the contract into thinking you're minting a single when you're actually just sending it into a bundle. So it's a simple Boolean, a true or false. And when you add that check on there, then you can be protected from a replay attack. Okay, next slide. So we have a gas cost function greater than MetaMask default. This one is kind of simple when you think about it, but it's always overlooked by developers. If you go on MetaMask, you click on the little fox up there in the extension and you open up, there's actually gas limits that Ethereum sets, and gas is of course how much you pay in order to make a Ethereum transaction, such as creating an NFT or buying an NFT or transferring one. So there's a block gas limit and there's a MetaMask limit as well on this. And if you mint something and you're saying, hey, go ahead and mint, and I want to buy like 500 of them because I just want to own all of them, you can actually go beyond that limit, and this can cause issues. So if we go on the next slide, you see here that this, all the transactions, some of them failed because you went beyond that limit. And the cause is if you go beyond the limit of 1,230,000, that's actually the gas limit set by default. People, they don't think about it when they're in a rush or they want to buy something, or maybe they're not aware that there's some advanced properties within MetaMask. You can go to MetaMask and raise that limit to be higher. And you can see on the left side, I have a picture of the edit priority. Just go edit priority, go to high, and set that limit higher. It's the same thing as just like, what's the speed in which I want to, my gas fees, all degens, they end up going to hit high. I do that every single time, whether I'm transferring, because, I don't have, ain't nobody got time for that. So you got to go for it and just get it right away. So yeah, same thing, go to the priority, set it to high. Okay, next one is a Reentrancy Attack. Reentrancy is the most popular version of security issues that you've seen in smart contracts before in non-NFTs, like the beginning days of Ethereum, all the way back in 2017 when we had these huge attacks like the DAO hack. You may have heard of Reentrancy from there. The DAO hack, which this is what caused a hard fork on Ethereum from Ethereum Classic to what we know now as Ethereum. A Reentrancy attack caused that. We're seeing it again. We thought we were done with Reentrancy attacks. All of a sudden, here they are again appearing, and they're related to the ERC20 NFT contract. So these are causing reentry under some circumstances in which you can buy one and transfer it and have the contract there, re-enter it, and buy another one, even though you only paid once. or maybe you can transfer it to somebody and then you have a malicious contract that'll re-enter it and then it'll like take it back. It's whatever the programmer has that allows reentrancy. So next slide, you can see that there's a couple of, this is very verbose. So take a screenshot or something if you're a developer and you want to use an example. This was actually a vulnerability of a reentry we saw in a client. I've obfuscated the code, so we don't know who it was that was vulnerable. We don't want to embarrass anybody here for it. But think of something as like a loot bag. And I'm not talking about loot, the NFTs, but a loot bag or something that's like a reward. There's a certain process that can create the reentrancy attack. So if first of all, the attacker will create their own smart contract with the logic, then they can transfer that to that contract to own temporarily. And then after it's done, the attacker's contract will then recall and prevent it again before the transaction gets mined. So what happens is you're able to, the attacker with his contract can mint it many times or as many times as they want, even though they only paid once, which can, if you have a limit like 10,000 NFTs, if you can re-enter it and keep doing it, you can mint all of them, all 10,000 just by paying one time. That's not good for anybody either. Okay, so let's go to the next one here. This is probably the most devious and the hardest to find vulnerability of all of them. Weak PRNG, and PRNG stands for pseudo random number generator. Randomization is extremely hard. We as humans are very predictable creatures, and this isn't something that's that's new. Randomization has been an issue ever since encryption was developed. Don't trust yourself to be random. Even like Bitcoin, something like the mnemonic phrases, you have 12 words that are randomly put together to create your key. That's even done by very, very strong randomization. If you were to cherry pick and your words, you wouldn't be able to provide enough security because we're predictable. Humans are predictable people. So when you try to develop your own randomization, such as like, okay, I want to randomly distribute these NFTs to like my 10,000 holders. Let's say you're the Gutter Cat gang, and all 3,000 people say, I want to just randomly democratize and distribute the next version of it to it, and you decide to like make your own randomization where like 7% have a chance to have that, and 0.3% have that rare, and you try to do it your own. Make sure you're not making predictable randomization. So this is some code. I'm not going to go into the nitty gritty on the code right now, or we could be here all night, but this will allow it to make the randomization happen in a secure way. Sometimes if you can figure out and reverse engineer it, you can control that randomization by backing out and trying it again. So there's a couple of ways to like prevent this. If you go to the next slide, we can see that there's a couple ways that you can hack it and a couple ways that you can say, hey, I need to prevent this prediction. So you can do it by one, using libraries that can have randomization has been proven to be strong, or you can make ways to call out the random number and have it be something that relies on a library that you can trust. And then the last slide here coming up is logical errors. So logical errors are examples of contracts that we use for different logic, like Chainlink. So Chainlink is Oracle. We all use it for lots of like ERC20s. We can use it for here. And if you don't think about how you're using it and implement it, you can introduce errors onto things about like, what's the rarity of these collectibles, and are they going to revert? Is there collateral around it? So all of this stuff is logic errors can be kind of widespread. Make sure you understand what your code is doing. Make sure that they understand that the code that you expect the functionality, that you can't control that logic or subvert it in any way. So that's going to be about logical errors. I think we have one more slide about how to wrap all this up here. So the next one, and that's all about. So that's all the main vulnerabilities here. I'm always available to take questions about it. We see like different types of hacks on these things all the time. These are ones that are about the code itself. Always remember that there's like off-chain security issues that can happen with this randomization. You can have OpenSea that will. I think the attack for that one was actually. The sell, if you had you didn't cancel like a sell amount, and you remint it and say, hey, I want to sell it for higher value, and forgot to cancel the old order. There was an issue where they can go and like buy it for that old sell. So there's all these types of like centralized issues. If you lose your key, you can lose all your NFTs too. So always keep that in mind here. All right. So that's it. I want to just go and talk about some like more technical details around some of these things. If you're a developer, really hope you appreciated this type of stuff, and take some screenshots, take some notes, and if you're coding some NFTs, make sure you don't do any of those things there. So thanks for watching.
Thank you, Steve. Yeah, a lot of people in the chat was like, "Oh, there's
Holy
like so
shit!
much
What did
alpha
he
is
just
being
do? Like
dropped."
my mind is blown from all this code.
Well, thank you, Steve. We'll have you on more of our conferences, like especially for this. Like everyone needs to know some of the vulnerabilities with especially in the coding world, because it can lead to some really big exploits.
Yeah. A lot of the ones that you see here are like, don't worry about it. Halborn's got it. Like we're checking for these things before they even make it to mainnet, so they're taken care of. And then for you guys, like, yeah, you're welcome. Like, you're not gonna get rugged and your NFTs are get stolen because we got all the code taken care of.
Thanks for keeping the space safe.
Yeah, no problem, man. Thanks, Michael.
All right, thanks, Steve. Have a good one.